All right, let's talk about microbes. You know, those invisible architects of our entire planet. They're literally everywhere, from the deepest parts of the ocean all the way to the inside of our own bodies. But for something so fundamental to life, our relationship with them is, well, it's kind of complicated, right? So today we're going to uncover the surprising story of these tiny, powerful, and, let's be honest, often misunderstood allies.
So, let me ask you something. When you hear the word microbe, what's the very first thing that pops into your head? Yeah, for a lot of us, it's probably something you want to stay away from, right? You know, the kind of thing that makes you immediately reach for the hand sanitizer. And hey, if you pictured something like this, you are definitely not alone. What you're looking at is an adenovirus, one of those nasty little microbes that causes respiratory infections. And look, it's totally true. Microbes are responsible for a ton of diseases in humans, animals, and plants. That's the side of the story we hear about all the time. But that is not the whole story. It's not even close. So, that really is the big question, isn't it? When it comes to microbes, are they friends or are they foes? Well, let me tell you, the answer is way more interesting than a simple yes or no.
See, we just can't let their reputation as germs be the only thing we think about. Because yeah, while some of them are harmful, so many others are absolutely essential for our daily lives. And their most important contributions? They're often hiding in plain sight, starting in a place you probably visit every single day.
Yep, you guessed it, the kitchen. These tiny little organisms are basically the secret chefs behind some of our absolute favorite foods. And chances are you've been benefiting from their hard work every single day without even realizing it.
Okay, let's take curd, for example. The magic behind it? It all comes from these microbes called lactic acid bacteria, or LAB for short. When you add a little bit to milk as a starter, millions upon millions of these bacteria multiply. They produce acids that, poof, turn the milk into curd. But here's the cool part. They don't just change the texture, they also seriously boost its nutritional value by increasing vitamin B12. And that's a nutrient that's super important for your energy and keeping your nerves healthy.
Have you ever wondered what actually makes dough for bread, or even dosa rise? Surprise, surprise, it's microbes again. That classic puffed-up look is all thanks to them producing carbon dioxide gas while they ferment. And the tiny engine doing all the heavy lifting? That's baker's yeast, a microbe with the fancy name Saccharomyces cerevisiae. It's what turns a dense, boring lump of dough into something wonderfully light and airy.
And this is where it gets really cool, because you can see the incredible diversity of what these microbes can do. Take Swiss cheese. One type of bacterium goes to town, producing a ton of CO2 gas, and that's what creates those famous big holes. But then you have Roquefort cheese. For that, a totally different fungus is used, and it's responsible for that unique, super strong flavor. Think about it. Same starting point, milk, but two completely different results, and it's all down to which microbe you use.
Okay, so we found them in our kitchens, but what happens when you take these processes and scale them way up? Well, it turns out that microbes are also the powerhouse workhorses of massive industries.
So we go from a simple bowl in the kitchen to these. These enormous vessels are called fermenters. See, producing things on an industrial scale means you have to grow microbes in these gigantic, super-controlled environments. And that's how we get them to create products that are valuable to all of us.
And here's a really fantastic connection for you. That very same yeast we use for making bread, Saccharomyces cerevisiae, is also known as brewer's yeast. I mean, for thousands of years, we've been using this exact same microbe to ferment things like malted cereals and fruit juices to produce beverages, like wine and beer.
And it's pretty amazing when you think about it, how just one extra step can completely change the final product. Both types of beverages start with fermentation, right? Wine and beer, well, they just stop there. But to create spirits like whiskey, brandy, and rum, that fermented broth has to go through one more crucial step, distillation.
But the power of microbes goes so much further than just food and drink. I mean, their most profound, world-changing impact on humanity has been in a completely different field, the development of modern medicine.
So what is an antibiotic exactly? Well, the name itself is a clue. It comes from Greek, anti means against, and bio means life. So against life. Antibiotics are chemical substances that are actually produced by certain microbes, and their whole job is to kill or stop the growth of other nasty disease-causing microbes. So essentially, it's microbes fighting other microbes, all for our benefit.
Now, the story of the very first antibiotic, penicillin, is just legendary. It was a total chance discovery. Back in 1928, a scientist named Alexander Fleming noticed something weird. There was a mold growing on one of his culture plates, and it was actually preventing bacteria from growing anywhere near it. Now, it wasn't until later that two other scientists, Ernest Chain and Howard Florey, figured out its full potential. The drug ended up being used extensively to treat wounded soldiers in World War II, and in 1945, all three of them were awarded the Nobel Prize for it.
And believe me, that award was so well-deserved. The discovery of antibiotics is, without a doubt, seen as one of the most significant discoveries of the entire 20th century. It wasn't just a small step forward, it completely changed our relationship with disease forever.
I mean, the impact was nothing short of revolutionary. You have to remember, before antibiotics, diseases that we barely think about today, like plague, whooping cough, diphtheria, they killed millions upon millions of people. And then, almost overnight, we suddenly had the power to fight back against these once deadly infections. It was a complete transformation for human health.
So, when you look at the whole picture, from our kitchens to these giant factories, all the way to the labs that literally change medical history, it becomes crystal clear. We really need to start seeing microbes in a completely new light. They truly are our invisible allies.
So what does this all come down to? It's that microbes are so much more than just germs. They're your kitchen's secret helpers. They are the workforce behind massive industrial beverages. And they're the source of the life-saving medicine that has made our modern world possible. Think about it. From the food on our plates to the medicines that keep us healthy, it is just impossible to imagine our world today without all the incredible benefits provided by our microbial partners. So, we've seen how these tiny organisms helped build the world that we all live in today. And that leads to one final, really fascinating question to think about. As we look to the future and all the challenges ahead, what new problems will our microscopic allies help us solve next?